Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me. Maybe some of you for the second time today. For those of you that need to get a life, maybe you're joining me for the second time. Oh, forgive me. Every time I start broadcasting, my nose seriously starts itching. I'm sure it's psychological. Okay. In this broadcast, I am going to begin work on a commission that I have. It's going to be a 36 by 48 or 48 by 36, more specifically, a vertical painting for a businessman in this city. And it's different in a couple of respects. Number one, it's a symbolic painting. It's not a plein air painting. It's not going to be a cityscape. And I have some of the parameters, but not many. So here it is. The painting is to include oak trees because oak trees are a symbol of strength and humanity, human beings standing strong like an oak and so on and so forth. It's the man, I'm doing it for a businessman, and he's involved in mentoring young men. So the themes are the city of Raleigh, oak trees, and mentorship. Got it? That's it. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be one of my typical cityscapes. This is not going to be one of my paintings of Fayetteville Street, downtown Raleigh. Therefore, I'm kind of like, where do you start? So for me, when I'm in one of those where do you start moments, the answer is you start with thumbnails. And it's been quite a while since I've done a broadcast where I do and discuss thumbnails. So no time like the present. Let's get going. Now, you'll see here I have a lap board. This right here is the cheapest easel on the planet, right? In fact, you don't need a lap board. You can get a clipboard, especially a legal size, but even ordinary clipboard, $1.99, right? And put your paper there. Now that's the cheapest easel on the planet. Costs $1.99. You can get one somewhere in your house for free, probably, because there's one or two laying around that aren't being used. So this is a slight upgrade from that. And the point of this, the lap board, is that it points the picture plane at your nose instead of like this, pointed at the ceiling. Make sense? This angle facilitates the proper grip. Not the control grip, but the side saddle grip. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And I have here, I'm going to start out by working in felt tip markers. And I'll zoom in a little bit here. Thumbnail. I have 5 different grades, 5 different colors of gray. And I want to begin thinking, so let me go ahead and review those for myself. Operating out of the right side of my brain right now. We're talking oak trees. I'll just call it oaks. Mentorship. And Raleigh, city of Raleigh. Okay? In other words, this businessman, committed to the city of Raleigh, committed to mentoring young people, young men in particular, and using the symbol of an oak tree. Oh, David, I love an old staircase out of oaks that indicate teaching from young to old, from old to young. David, my friend, I need you to call my client and and give him that idea, because I think that's a great idea. I love it. I could really get excited about that image, but I don't think that's the assignment. I'm afraid that's not the assignment. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll save that one, David, because I really like it a lot. I'm serious. Okay, now I used the word Notan, N-O-T-A-N. Let me write that down for those of you who might have missed it. And this is a new word to me about 4 or 5 years ago. And my fuzzy memory says it might have come out of Japan, so it might be a transliteration of a Japanese word. A notan is basically a 2 or 3 value thumbnail sketch, but most often a thumbnail. The key ingredient here, it's 2 or 3 values, light, medium, and dark. That's why I have actually 4 or 5 values here. I've made a fancy notan. Okay, so let's start. This painting is supposed to be vertical, 36 by 48. And I'm just going to start. Oh, wait. I should show you something else. Hang on. Sorry about that. I'm interrupting myself here. While I was taking a break between my first broadcast and this one, I took the liberty of going online on Google and typing in oak trees, oak grove, and oak forest. All three terms, and started printing off beautiful scenes. Now, interesting thing happened. Oh, David, a notane is a monochrome. That means it's one color, monochromatic, right? That's great. Gray, 3 shades of gray. Maybe I didn't make that clear. 3 values, but yeah, all grays are dark, medium, and light. Monochromatic. An interesting thing happened while I was looking online. Paintings kept coming up by this guy named Ivan Shishkin, a Russian. And let me see, 1, 2, at least 3, maybe 4 of these paintings are his. Some of these are photographs, and some of them are paintings. And I began wondering, so who is this Ivan Shishkin guy? Well, after I printed these out, and I laminated them because it makes the colors pop, and because this is the kind of subject matter I can imagine using again in the future to some benefit. So I'll save these and use them as a reference for forests. Well, I went back to my computer and just looked up then Ivan Shishkin, and wouldn't you know it, this is his painting. Now, I don't know if you recognize this painting or not, but I bet that this is probably the most well-known forest painting in human history. That's my guess. I can't think of another painting. I've seen this my whole life, and sure enough, it's Ivan Shishkin from the late 1800s, 1880, 1890, and so forth. So fascinating. So I'll laminate this some other time, but if you're going to do a painting of a forest, it's not a bad idea to find the best painting of a forest ever done and consider it carefully, right? So I have several things to inspire me figure out what trees look like. But before I get that far, though, now let's go back to the Notan monochromatic sketch. And the purpose of doing thumbnails, of course, is so that you work fast, you work small, and that's too light. And you work with broad strokes. You don't get stuck in the details. One of the rules of thumb here, I think I'll use. Let's get back to a proper grip here. I'm going to use a Sharpie fine point to do the outline. One of the rules I use for myself when I am doing sketches is just keep your pen moving, or your brush or your pencil, whatever it is. Just keep moving. Don't slow down. Don't stop. Don't think too much. Just go. I think that's a good strategy for doing sketches. It keeps you from getting stuck. I think I might be able to just work, at least initially. I'm just going to use just 2 markers. So it really is, literally is a Notan, if you will. And I've seen it spelled N-O-T-A-N. David Mercer, if you can instruct me any better, maybe it is a Notan. I don't know. Like I said, I just learned the word in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm also going to draw with my left hand. By the way, you'll notice I'm holding it in the wrong way. That's partly because I'm just finding the angle of this lends itself to the control grip. Doesn't lend itself to side saddle quite so much. So I'm violating my own rules, if you will. David, if you're still there, do you know where the term Notan came from? Is my hunch that it's Japanese? Is that correct or misguided? Let's start this drawing with the lighter color. Okay, so let's talk about composition. Again, we've talked about composition so many times on my channel here. Composition has to do... Whoops, my wife is calling me. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll take a real quick break and then I'll call her back in just a minute. Composition has to do with lights and darks, major light and dark areas. Essentially, that's all. And so when you're doing a Notan, that's what you're doing. You're doing major light and dark zones without getting bogged down. Let's switch now. Let's put the dark pen in my left hand. You'll notice that most of my sketches have a large oak tree right in the foreground, and it's always leaning. It's never tipped one way or the other. Thank you, Kaz. Japanese concept of the relationship between light and dark. Cool. Sounds good to me. And that I think I remember hearing that it was a Japanese term. So it sounds to me like it even has philosophical overtones, does it? It's not just purely visual, but I don't know. I'm not sure if maybe I'm reading too much into that. But thank you, Kaz. Appreciate that. I suppose somebody could Google the term while we're discussing it, couldn't they? Okay, so what I'm following right now is mostly simply the rule, keep your pen moving. Just keep going. And I don't need to let you or make you watch me do all of these, of course. It could get a little boring. I do know, for what it's worth, the number of thumbnails, the highest number of thumbnails I ever did for one painting. You ready? You ready for drum roll? Highest number of thumbnails I ever did for one painting, this is in 1978, was 173 thumbnails. 173. And I did it over a period of days, if not weeks. I wrote on napkins, I wrote on sketch pads, I wrote on scrap paper, I wrote on all kinds of things. That's a little extreme. And yeah, the painting, I still have it. In fact, I got 2 paintings out of that blistering pace of thumbnails. 173. Got 2 paintings. One was a commission, the other one I did for myself, which is hanging in our living room downstairs as we speak. Speaking of living rooms, I always feel a little bit embarrassed. I don't know if you guys noticed, there's actually a bed beside me here. And some of you are thinking, oh, I know this poor guy has to work in his bedroom. Well, I know I shouldn't be sensitive about such things, but I want you, just for again, for what it's worth, no. I'm actually working in my studio, but my wife and I have had this young woman living with us for the last 4 months because she was just in a place of need. If we didn't bring her in, she'd be almost on the street, not quite, but her education and career goals would have been severely hampered if we hadn't taken her in. So part of the time she sleeps in my studio. It's an air mattress over there. So no, thanks for your concern, but I am not working in a bedroom. I'm actually working in my studio that is a temporary bedroom. Okay, let's do another page of I'm not even going to spend much time analyzing these yet. I might come back. Let me give you an earthquake ride again. I might come back later with a whiteout and do some points of light in here. But I don't know that I'm going to do that. But just a thought. But that'll come later. Right now, let's just keep our pen hour. Do you like that? Editorial hour. Colby, your guess was 180. Dang, you were close. Oh, that's great. Yeah, 173. Look at how my left hand cannot. Now, let's say my right hand wanted to draw a box. Can you see that? That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between a left hand and a right hand. But now I ask you a question. Which one is more interesting? Not which one is more accurate, but which one is more interesting, huh? I bet you think what I think. This one, the left-handed one, is more interesting. So there you go. That's part of the reason. My left hand cannot do what my right hand does. It cannot. But it still does things that in a sense that my left hand can't do. I mean, that my right hand can. You know what I meant. I meant to say that the other way around. Okay, composition. The sketches I'm doing right now are actually 3 values, right? You might say, no, 2, 3. The dark, the medium, and the light. 3 values. And in my opinion, that's, as I understand it, that's what I was taught, that is the highest form of Notan is 3 values, light, medium, and dark. And the benefit of that, of course, is it forces you right from the get-go to be thinking compositionally. One of my guidelines for composition, I call this Mikey's rule, because I learned this from my friend Mike Rooney, who learned it from somebody else, but he can't remember who. So, so I name it after Mike Rooney. Mikey's rule. Here it is. I'm going to write it down. You won't be able to see that small, so let me change writing instruments. Here we go. There's light areas, medium areas, and dark areas. Okay? There's the dark. There's the medium. Dark's not dark enough now. And there's the light. Light, medium, and dark, right? The rule is, Mikey's rule, that 2 of the 3 must be contiguous. Contiguous. I think that's how you spell that. Or touching. Or connected to each other. So 2 of the 3. Either the light and the medium have to be touching, or the medium and the dark have to be touching, or the light and the dark need to be touching. Did you see my messy diagram there? Either light and medium, medium and dark, or light and dark. 2 of those 3 need to be contiguous or touching, and then it's probably a good composition. Not a guarantee, but very likely that it's a good composition. So I'm hardly even thinking about that yet, but I will be here shortly. And these pens that I just tested a little while ago to make sure that they were gonna retain their vigor are already drying up. So I used to use these kinds of pens a bunch back in the day of graphic design and illustration, storyboards. They were my friend. I rarely use them anymore. I threw out a whole bunch before I started this broadcast. Okay, let me tell you some of the other things that are going through my mind while I make these thumbnails. So back to my original theme, mentorship, which means young and old, new, old, big, small, large, small, strong, weak. So I think it's probably obvious that the big tree in the foreground always at an angle. Why? Because if it's vertical, it's unnecessary because it parallels the sides of the canvas. So visually, it would be a non-entity if it was vertical. Slight exaggeration, but more or less true. Okay, so that represents the master, and then there may be saplings, right, representing the mentees, the mentorees. And then the halftone is just purely for compositional purposes. I did find it interesting when I was looking at this collection of beautiful forest scenes that I found online very quickly. I was counting how many of them fade to light and how many of them fade to dark. Light, dark, light, 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 light. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, out of 14, 13 of them fade. As you go into the forest, things get lighter. Does that make sense? I think that's interesting. So the intuition of most photographers and painters, including the famous Ivan Ishkin, what did I say? Ishkin. And this is the most famous forest painting ever done, probably. Fades to light, see? So I find only one here, and this is one of his paintings also. As you go into the forest, it gets darker and darker. 1 out of 14. The other, like this is a photograph. This fades to light. You're in the dark and you escape. So that doesn't mean I have to do one way or the other, but it does tell me that most creative people have opted for the dark to light theme rather than the light to dark theme. Just interesting. Doesn't mean I have to do what they did, but I give it very sober, I'm inclined that way. I'm inclined, and that was my first inclination anyway, but it confirms my inclination that, in other words, the tree here is dark, right? Up in the foreground, this is a dark trunk. And then as we proceed back toward the background, the landscape gets lighter and lighter, which has sort of, psychological, quasi-spiritual overtones of, progressing into the light. So enlightenment, those are all good themes. And that pen is drying out too. So, okay, that's enough pen work for now. Let me tip you off. Let me give you another free tip just for what it's worth. If it might not be worth anything. If you have a lot of thumbnails to do or feel like you really want to do a lot, now again, so far I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 sketches. And I'm not even analyzing them yet. I'm just piling them up. But one of the tricks you can play on yourself is changing medium. So I'm going to cast away this vellum, what do you call that kind of paper? Anyway, almost like tracing paper, almost. And let's grab some plain old, off the copy machine printer paper. And let's do some charcoal. So the trick here is change mediums, and it will change your mood. It will change the way you feel, the kinds of marks you make, the kind of lines you make will be changed. And that's a really good trick. So I think what I'm going to do here is use this fat charcoal for dark and then use a blender for my medium. I have a feeling here that I've done an awful lot of images where it's dark at the top, medium at the top, medium at the bottom, and this light area. Let me look. Yeah, that's what I'm doing most of the time. So let's try to change that up. Let's try to think of a variation that would work. Okay, so I have a charcoal pencil here that's fairly hard lead. You know what I mean, not lead, fairly hard charcoal. And very soft charcoal stick. What would happen if I did so? Then the light at the top represents sky, which is again could be symbolically appropriate. Now I haven't even thought about. Wait a minute. How about a road? A road or a path road, or a stream, a small river down the middle of that'd be a good. And both of these symbols symbolize a journey, don't they? So that's a good thing when it comes to mentorship and life, right? It's a journey. So that might be a good symbol there. Thank you for your chats, you guys. I'll come back and look at them in just a minute. Let's do another one where maybe I try to capture that either a road or a path. I don't even care at this point. That one looks like a ravine. A ravine is good too. A ravine means there's been a flowing river or flowing creek, stream there. There just may not be one there at the moment. So still carries the connotation, I think, of a journey of life. One of the nice things about a stream or a body of water is it would give me a real good excuse to have some very bright light reflection of the sky down here. See, so that's what got me thinking about that when I did this dark in the middle. That opened up a whole new concept of having a light down here in the foreground. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Let's see what comments you guys are saying. David says, the cast of sunlight come from the back through the oak tree, sticking a new tree. Yeah, hitting a new tree growing. Yeah, change the thought, Colby says, of making lines. Yeah, good, thank you. How about an overhang or a tunnel? Ooh. Wow. I like that idea. Well, let's mess with that a little bit. A tunnel or an overhang. Are you thinking like a row of oak trees, perhaps? I'm not sure either one, but yeah, where they overhang, right? Creating almost a tunnel effect. I like that idea. And again, that has the connotation of a path running down the middle. Now here's a real simple trick. If you want to get in a landscape, if you want to give a sense of distance, let me zoom in a little bit more. Horizontal lines convey a proceeding into the distance like that. And I suppose in this composition, the foreground will be dark because it's under the shade of these overarching trees, then fading to light. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, so that's more of a tunnel than the ones I've done up to this point. Well, I'm just about done with this broadcast. I really will keep it short. Let me tell you what I'm going to do after I hang up on you guys, so to speak. I'm going to keep doing this for a few more minutes. At some point, I will go back and start evaluating, not judging, but just letting my eyes pick one, say, ooh, for some reason I like that, this or that composition. Got it? And I don't have to have even a reason or an excuse why I like it. My eye will be drawn to it. The other thing I'm probably going to do before I even leave the Notan stage is I'll probably change mediums again. I have over here to my left, I have a number of watercolor papers already masked off, and I have watercolors here. I could do some sketches in watercolor. Maybe I'll bring you back in maybe tomorrow or later tonight. I don't know when I've maybe settled on one overall composition, and you can see me take it to the next step. The next step will be, this is the hardest step, by the way, in my opinion. This is the hardest work. After I stumble on a composition that I like, it's just a matter of execution after that. So after doing Notans, the next thing will probably be a small sketch. Not really, I call these thumbnails, but a larger sketch, like the ones I showed you, and probably in watercolor. So I can begin developing it, thinking in more detail, like color and texture and so forth. And from that, I may go straight to the 36 by 48 inch painting. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Hope that's perhaps helpful. I hope entertaining. I kept myself under control pretty well this time, didn't I? It was not. So it was not extremely entertaining. I didn't have to rebuke any viewers. All right, good enough. Thank you, guys. I'll have to work without you for a while. I appreciate your input and your company.